cut, welcome to the top cut, welcome to the top cut, welcome to the top cut. Top cut, welcome to the top cut, welcome to the top cut, welcome to the top cut.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Top Cut Yu-Gi-Oh! Podcast. My name is Skyhawk, and no, I am not doing another solo episode. Sunny is gone for one more episode exactly, but I have a very special guest I will introduce here in a moment. But first off, I have to thank all of our sponsors. Yay! So first off, huge shout outs to ETB Games and Steelfox Games down in Louisiana. I have physically never been there, but Sunny can vouch for how awesome those shops are. Definitely go check them out. Also a massive shout out to Gem Accessories. They make fantastic backpacks, deck boxes, binders, anything you can think of. Also, shout out to Dragon Shield. You can get now custom Japanese sleeves, so if you want custom artwork, you can go do that. We've got an affiliate link in the description. As well, huge shout out to Tier 0 Games. You can now use code TOPCUT5 to get 5% off of your order at Tier 0. That link is in the description as well. And as always, a massive shout out to the patrons. Y'all keep us running, so we very much appreciate it. So without further ado, I have one of the core members of the Necrofusion enthusiasts who are rotating through the podcast. Elephant number 5, would you like to introduce yourself to the people?
Hello, I'm Elephant number 5. I recently got into Yu-Gi-Oh! I guess at the beginning of 2022, I guess. Mainly started with like Master Duel, and I only just recently got started into like getting cards for the TCG. Played in like 2 locals so far, and been having a blast there.
Nice. I'm glad that in-person locals. So that's actually something we can talk about for sure. You've had some pretty sick runs at the Master Circuit series. Did you I know you got close a couple of times. Did you cleared, I think you cleared top 16 once?
Yeah, once I got to top 8.
Nice. Immense W. We had like, it was you and Synapse and Ease and I who were trying to grind it. And I think Ease, Synapse, and you cleared. I can't remember if anybody else. Karibo did the one time. But that's a testament to how insane the Necrofusion enthusiasts are. So I guess I'll start with the simple Yu-Gi-Oh questions so that the people can kind of get to know what you like and don't like, and then I actually have some questions about getting into paper play from the perspective of a new player, just because it's been so long since I picked that side of it up. But so we'll start off with the most basic question, and I guess you answered it a little bit, but why Yu-Gi-Oh? What brought you to this corner of games?
Well, obviously, I'd played it as a kid. I think I played it with like my friends up to like 5th grade, 6th grade.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of stopped after that, after like the teasing got a bit too much in middle school. So that was like pretty much playground Yu-Gi-Oh sort of thing. Like,
mm-hmm.
We still thought that you could tribute summon Stardust Dragon if it got bounced to the hand.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And then I guess I got back into it through Master Duel, just needed like a itch to scratch for like gacha games, and then there was Master Duel, and I was like, well, might as well also pick Yu-Gi-Oh back up.
Did you hit two birds with one stone? We need the PNGs, yep. But I can also relearn the card game. And crazy that you picked it up for a year, topped an MCS. Now you're picking up paper play. It's funny that you mentioned the like playground rule stuff. I distinctly remember one of my best friends growing up had just a massive Yu-Gi-Oh collection, and he would always insist that Dark Magician had all of these anime effects. It's like every time I see it, I'm like, yep, I remember how that was. Okay, so this question might also be obvious to some people, but what would you say your favorite deck is? Off the top.
Well, especially with I'd say probably my favorite deck to play is Fluffles. As a proud member of the Necrofusion.
Anything else on the list, or is that kind of been your main jam?
Especially like in the MCS, Crystal Beast has been fun with conclave control.
We have the same brain cell. I went from learning like directly from learning Fluffle to learning Crystal Beast.
Yeah, and I'm also a fan of the punk, just like punk decks, the punk engine. It's just something about it is cool. It's especially like punk Darion.
Yeah, a lot of the wombo combo stuff is super awesome. Yeah. Punk also just has so many. There are so many variations you can play a whole. There's just tons of engines you can slap in with Punk. So it has a lot of wide stuff. Is there the other like, so I got two more like kind of wonky get to know you questions for the audience here. So this one's just the opposite. Is there anything you just absolutely hate to play against?
Hating to play against. I can't say that like I hate to play against stun, but it's like if I don't have the apps and the stun deck got set up, then well, it's
kind of weird because I feel like you run into that in Master Duel a lot more than you do in person. Like I feel like there's a lot of horror stories out there about like the one person who goes to locals and plays stun, but it's happened so rarely for me. But I feel like in Master Duel there's a non-zero sum of players that are just on like Inspector Border Turbo. I don't know if that's you probably play more Master Duel than I do right now, but does that seems about right?
Yeah.
Solid.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, part of it is probably just because it's like worldwide player base, so like you're going to run into them at some point just by like the law of large numbers.
That's true.
Like even in like the current Master Duel Festival is like a Fiend Fairy Fest. People are there's like a runic deck playing Consecrated Light just to like stun Labyrinth out of the game.
Oh my god. Wait, they actually
prevent special summoning of darks.
They can't do anything under that card. That's hilarious.
It's Amana Uwado for the format.
We're really deep in the tank on that. And I mean that's probably just crazy against a lot of the Fiend decks. Like it so anybody else playing stuff gets owned by Consecrated Light. That's terrifying. So I guess we'll bring it in on a slightly different note. The last Yu-Gi-Oh kind of question here. Do you have a favorite card? Is there anything that fits the slot there for you?
Let's see. A favorite card. I think one that comes to mind is probably I can't remember the name, but it's like the Suship's like chef's recommendation one. It's just like thematically it's so on point that like the design's not good, but it's just funny.
Yeah,
I like funny cards.
I did.
Clear New World, Small World, just things that are quirky and janky.
Clear New World is a cool card. I think it's cool. That card's going to be searchable soon. If you play there's some new Vsauce stuff that they revealed as per usual. That name's Clear New World. That card, somebody is asking to break that card. I think at some point somebody will figure something out. And Small World is also just one of the funniest cards ever. Like you can search anything, you got to put in the work. You have to build your deck very specifically. You probably have to play a card you don't really want to play, and you have to go -1. But you can search anything in the game. And
I'm currently on like Small World Fluffle Brainworms. Anything for Edge and Chain.
The anything for Edge and Chain is is about right. I was trying to find a way to make fusion armament work, but to be like, oh, it's named on the card, so we can summon it, and then we have to dump it to grave first. But it's just like it's too much setup to make it worth it. The Suship one is so cool. For those who don't know what the Suship card does, it occupies such like an interesting kind of like meta space in Yu-Gi-Oh design, because it's basically like you present two options to your opponent, or not two options necessarily, but it rewards you for knowing what the Suship cards are. because you show 2 cards to your opponent, and they can choose to add, I think it's add 1 to hand, send 1 to grave or something like that. But they can pick a sous ship card that you didn't reveal to them. So if they know the menu by heart, they can give you any sous ship card. But if they don't know the menu, they're probably going to give you one of the 2 that you reveal. And it's like, the card itself is only okay, but just the concept of rewarding somebody for not only like having the knowledge of the deck, but also just like thematically the knowledge of the menu is... I love that that's your favorite card. That's such a great pick.
Okay, I looked up the name. Gunkan Sous Ship Catch of the Day.
Catch of the Day. That's awesome.
I was remembering the fanlation that was like Chef's Choice or Chef's Special or something.
Oh, because that's the Nouvelles.
The YG translation.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because the Nouvelles now have Chef's Special Recipe as a continuous trap. So I pulled the CR of that out of my box, actually. What a silly card. Okay, so we were going to get into the Dune stuff, but now you brought something up that I kind of want to get into, because the kind of the discourse of the day on twitter.com, now x.com, I guess, rest in peace, is about Yu-Gi-Oh players getting into the game and the difficulty of that, and whether Master Duel is an effective tool. So you mentioned Master Duel is what dragged you in. You're just now kind of getting started into paper play. You've been to a couple locals. What has the transition from Master Duel to in person like, and what was how was learning the game through Master Duel?
I guess the transition is like I've spent quite a bit of time like hesitating with like just hearing like, oh yeah, cards are expensive, staples are expensive, Crosby costs like a bunch or stuff like that. So like that did cause quite a bit of hesitation, but then probably what made the transition easier was that around the time, I guess, tier limits became like tier 0 in Master Duel. Like they also got like all the Crystal Beast stuff, and I pulled a Royal Rainbow Dragon there. So I decided I'll learn Crystal Beast, and from there I learned the deck, and then it's like, oh wait, Crystal Beast in the TCG they just came out with like the structure like a while back, just like recently. Mm-hmm. So it's like that seems pretty cheap. Just buy 3 copies of the structure, and then I looked up like Rainbow Bridge and Salvation's like only like $2-3, and it's like, okay, fine. I think I can do this. So I made the jump through Conclave Control Crystal Beast stuff first. And then like played a local, had fun, and it's like, okay, you know what, I'm just gonna splurge. I'm just gonna splurge on Fluffles. They're not meta enough to be like to cost anything. I like the deck. They seem to be competent. Ease was doing well. So to me, I guess the main barrier is just like either hearing about the price, or like I imagine if I really wanted to build like Kashtira, like the top meta deck or something, that probably costs an arm and a leg if I wanted to like build it to like go into like a high level event or something.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think
since I'm just drawn to like the quirky decks, Generator, Plunder, Fluffle. Anyways, so it's like the price stuff is a bit better, but yeah.
It is interesting, actually, yeah. So, like, for example, if you take something like Crystal Beast, I think most of the Conclave Control players would be like, you have to play Prosperity. And it's like, if you're going to locals and you're not going to big events, you really just don't need to be dropping the money on those cards. Like, So there is something to be... It depends on how competitive your locals is and how well you want to do, I guess. But I feel like price didn't really get talked about when we were talking about barriers. A lot of it's been about, like, learning the game. But I think access to the game at an extremely high competitive level is not very price friendly. That part of it is still quite bad. If, like me, for example, Dino right now is really inexpensive. But if you wanted to optimize Dino, it's like you're playing Thrusts and you're playing Triple Tack and you're playing Prosperity and you're playing like a bunch of these expensive staple cards. So there's... I think the barrier isn't necessarily into building a deck. I think the barrier is in optimizing it. I think cores, unless it's something like cash, are actually less expensive than they used to be if you get them at the right time. But it's getting that like extra 5 to 10% out of your deck that can cause problems. So the other piece of this is you mentioned Master Duel picked you back up, and that's what got you learning the game. How did learning the game through Master Duel go? Was it like a lot of growing pains? Do you feel like you picked it up quickly? Do you think Master Duel is a good way for people to be able to learn?
Let's see. So I guess I picked up Master Duel. It was I can't exactly remember the timeline, but like I picked up Master Duel. I think it was like maybe a few months after like seeing the your video with MBT, the Fluffle video, and it's like, okay, Fluffle was the second deck I built in Master Duel. The first deck I built was Goki's because I saw that it was just Power Load Turbo in Progression series. And it's like, so
that's awesome. That's so good.
Yeah, so I don't know how to play Goki's with like Isolt or like anything else other than make 2 power loads or like make a giant ogre to like and Goki finishing move to like OTK from there. But yeah, so I started with Goki's because it was all in one pack. And then I went to Fluffles, and then it's for quite a bit of the game I was just only playing Fluffles, and I guess the learning experience is just learning to mess up against other decks and learning the decks as just messing up or like seeing what works, seeing what doesn't, trial and error. And then slowly I also did like as I accumulated like the gems, the currency, I did accumulate more decks. Some of them I liked, some of them I didn't, but yeah, I tried them out at like just whatever I pulled, I just made like a Jink version of it and then tried it out, and just to see how they played and how they felt.
Yeah.
So
that makes
good
sense.
Yeah, the one thing is like since I'm still mainly Master Duel focused, is like I have relatively little like, I guess attention is I'm not paying as much attention to like non-Master Duel decks like Pearly or like Kashtiri or Rescue Ace. Like I hear it because I'm like plugged in kind of to like the TCG buzz, I guess. But yeah, but I like can't tell you which name does what.
That is such an interesting thing to hear, because I mean, I can definitely relate to being disconnected, but it's so funny from the perspective of somebody who came to Master Duel from the TCG. For my view of it is, oh, this stuff is so old. It's like it feels like a format I've already played. But for somebody coming from Master Duel to the TCG, it's like, oh wait, there's all this stuff that I don't know because it's just not present in this game. We're like, it's kind of a similar problem, but in both directions, where like the pathway to both ends up being kind of lopsided. But it does mean at least that both formats kind of get to stay fresh, which is cool. For the perspective of learning the game too, I think it's awesome that you bring up that you just have to make mistakes against a bunch of decks. The analogy I like to use a lot is with fighting games, where for a very long time, until you have a grasp on what is happening, you are just going to get destroyed. Like, you have to, in a fighting game, you have to know like tons of mix to start succeeding at like a higher level. You have to like have lots of frame data. You have to like practice all of your inputs. You have to be reading your opponent constantly, making quick decisions. Yu-Gi-Oh is a lot like that, where you're never going to run into something until you actually run into it. So the MVT has the analogy of like Nadir Servant, where they're like, if you were to show Nadir Servant to somebody who was just starting to learn Yu-Gi-Oh, they would have no idea how to evaluate the card because they don't know everything that surrounds it. So while you're learning, you might make a mistake of like ash something else, and then your opponent goes, okay, activate Nadir Servant, and then they send all the stuff, they do all the lines, and you just have no way of knowing that until you're actually sitting across the table from it. So in that sense, I guess Master Duel is probably a good tool, because you just get so much variety.
Yeah, and I guess another way it's a good tool in like trial and error perspective is that like I'm a relative. I guess I think relatively analytically, at least with Yu-Gi-Oh. It's like I like to like actually know the rulings. It's like, okay, why didn't I get to use a toad to negate like an already activated continuous? And it's like, oh, that's how the ruling works. That's what the wording is. Like I like thinking through that, and it's like just having the simulator that I assume it should be mostly correct, like teach me rulings, has also been pretty nice.
Yeah, having that kind of self-taught nature to it. That's actually I hadn't really considered that as something that would be effective. But for I guess I think a lot of people assume, me included, that people will get turned off by that. But there's probably a subsection of people that are like, yes, I need to learn I need to know how this works. I need to figure it out. That part of it is really awesome.
I'm a programmer for work, so I mean.
Oh, okay. So then this falls in line exactly. That's what my twin brother's a software developer as well. So you end up, we like to learn how systems work. I'm just starting to. I'm studying for my CompTIA plus for IT stuff, and I'm starting to learn Python now. So birds of a feather flock together, I guess.
The one downside for like learning Master Duel and trying to apply it to the TCG, at least based on my experience at exactly 2 locals, is that sometimes it's like missing triggers or like windows, because like Master Duel has the shiny flashing buttons that asking like, oh, do you want to ash this? It's like I remember like one time it was like runic musket or something. It's like I had an ash in hand, I'm just looking at it, and then like, okay, go on with your combo. And it's like, oh wait, I probably should have ashed that.
Yeah, somewhere should I have either hit the mask or the max or the
or the fountain or something,
or the fountain or the Hugin.
It's just like after they went through the combo, then my brain caught up and it's like, wait a minute, like that would have been a great place to ash. I've seen this deck before in Master Duel.
Yeah, that is it. Yeah, that is something that I've heard people say too, where it's like the both the pace is kind of jarring, because in person it's a bit slower than the Master Duel can be, but also just the Master Duel being like, which of these 3 effects would you like to activate? Or in the end phase, hey, you got this Scarm here. You want to use that? Or whereas in person, if you miss that trigger, we go to the draw phase, it's gone. And there's the only reminders is that skill check. And I feel like there's a bit of controversy around that. The thing that kind of brought that part of the discussion was the Imperm update. For those who don't know, in Master Duel, they just recently added that if you activate Infinite Impermanence while it's set to negate a monster effect, the whole column then gets highlighted for the rest of the turn. So it's essentially the game telling you where the Imperm column is, so you don't activate your cards there. And so a lot of people, I think from the TCG side, saw that as a bad change, because they see the Infinite Impermanence as part of the skill check of the game that they play. Whereas for Master Duel, it feels like a way to make the information overload that you have more accessible. So it's just like a way to remind, kind of like how everything else functions. So I don't know. Do you think it's good that something like that is there? Or do you prefer the TCG skill check side of things? Like, one thing that I do like about the Master Duel update, I think the adding up the monster attacks is just really good. It feels like it's like an unnecessary skill check to make people do math. I think we could. Yeah. I think in Master Duel that's like, totally fine.
I'm relatively good at mental math, but I agree that like having it art just there is like pretty nice. So overall, I think like a lot of I've liked most of the Master Duel like UI updates, like when they added like the related cards. So like when with like that Nadir Servant example, like you can click Nadir Servant and click related cards, and you can see like at least some of the possible related cards. Like sure, there's probably still like you don't know that you can send Garuda off of it.
Yeah.
But like at least you can kind of like see that. Like I think that's an interesting thing that like just can't be done in like paper form. can't as easily be done in pay per play that I think is cool. And I think a lot of the animations that they add are just like pretty. They add to like the flair. Like I can understand like that skill check argument, but I'm still mostly like kind of a relatively casual, like it's playing Yu-Gi-Oh for the fun, so I like it when there's like flashy things.
I think that's the best argument I've heard so far. Is actually it looks good, so I think we should keep it. But I think you're right. I think in something like Master Duel, I think it makes more sense, especially if we're using it as a gateway. It makes more sense to lean into making it easier for people to learn.
It makes it easier for any audience to like follow it, to watch it. Like,
yep, the spectator part of that for sure. Cool. That's actually, honestly, that is actually really interesting to hear this from the perspective of somebody who learned it through Master Duel. So I guess before we move on to reading bad cards, my last kind of Master Duel related question. So you mentioned that you built Goki as double power load turbo because you watched the progression series. How long were you like around Yu-Gi-Oh YouTube before you picked up Master Duel? Had you kind of been watching progression for a while? Was it like was that just kind of like your way of keeping in touch with Yu-Gi-Oh, or was it more of a recent thing?
I think it was like maybe half a year before like I picked up Master Duel. Like I started like, I don't know, a Yu-Gi-Oh video showed up in my recommended list, and then I went down the YouTube rabbit hole.
We go down the algorithm really does bring people together in the silliest ways. So what was do you remember what the video you got recommended was?
I don't know if it's the first one, but I think the one that's like most in my memory is one of MBT's where it's like the most Yu-Gi-Oh match of all time, and it was like Exodia versus Karibo or something like that.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That was one of the old. That was when it was still the Quarantine series.
That like I don't think I watched it when it came out, but like But I think that was like one of the earlier videos in the algorithmic rabbit hole.
I think that's such a perfect video for that too, because not only is it just absolutely hilarious, even if you only have a very surface level understanding of what's happening, like it's got like retro cards. There's a bunch of new stuff you can look at, just absolutely crazy nonsense. So it checks off the nostalgia factor and like the what is this turned into now? That gets you like kind of doing more research. And if you haven't gone to watch that video yet, if you're listening to the podcast, you should go watch it. It's gold. If you've never seen Law of the Normal Resolve, this is the video to check out. Also, the Exodia stuff is amazing. Okay. So that's
one of them cited out of Exodia.
We're citing out of Exodia in our Exodia deck is the move of all time. Shout outs to the Quarantine series. That was a fun show. Okay, so now for the last segment of the podcast, I think most of the people who are paying attention to the TCG probably know most of the good cards that are in Duelist Nexus. You know, we've got your Revolution Synchrons, your Vsauce Amritaras, your what else we got? Volzar Lars for you Dino fans. But there are some very bad cards. And most of the bad cards are TCG exclusives, as usual. We get these weird pack filler cards that the TCG likes to put in every year, and occasionally one of them is like okay. Some recent examples, Pit Knight Early has seen some play in some extra decks. Bio-Rock Dragon was cool. So I want to go from the perspective of someone getting back into TCG. You may have already read these, but I kind of want to hear what you think about them, both as a kind of a jank enthusiast. Because I always, whenever these get revealed, I try to think of like, well, what could we actually do with this card? What's possible? So the first one is very near and dear to my heart. They made this card for me. I've been labbing Tomosaurus combos for the last 2 months. So we've got Zootomosaurus, a level 2 Earth Dino effect monster, 500 attack, 400 defense. While you control another dinosaur monster, your opponent's monsters cannot target this card for attacks. You can target one other card you control and destroy it, and you can only use this effect hard once per turn. What are your thoughts about the... Do you have any thoughts about the dino guy? Is it just funny?
I get, like, having minored in Japanese at uni, I can appreciate the pun in the name.
Okay, I actually don't know what the pun is. So what's the setup here?
I mean, like, the YG.org article does explain it. Like, Zutomo means friends forever in Japanese, but it's like the idea is that Tomo is friend, and Zuto is like forever or like always. So they like do like the concatenation where they overlap the to. Zutomo.
That's cool. So it's the...
I don't know. It's not anything like exotic, but like I can appreciate it. I'm a big fan of puns too.
I love Friends Forever dinos. I've got the Tomosaurus on my desk here actually. And what's funny is in the original art of Tomosaurus, I think the idea is with the Friends Forever bit here is actually they look a lot older in this card art. Like they're bigger, they're still playing around. So it really is like a Friends Forever. They've aged like 20 years and they're still roughhousing. So I love that.
Though sadly, the flavor text, at least on the English, according to Wikipedia, is that this monster even attacks its own kind. So not so friendly. But
maybe they've
they made up.
Maybe they made up. Yeah. Yeah, I have it here actually. Small but vicious. This monster even attacks its own kind. And it's funny because there's Tomosaurus obviously is referring to the kind of like the brown one then. Because that's the one that's biting in the original art. But anyway, so speaking as a dinosaur stan, this card is like fine. It doesn't actually accomplish much for dinosaur. However, it does accomplish something for me specifically. So if you've seen my Twitter, I've been labbing the shaman stuff, and we're doing Monadium things now, so we're not playing shaman anymore. But this card does enable the 2-card dino combo to revive 4 level 2s with shaman instead of 3. Because instead of, when you go Baron, pop a baby to summon another baby from deck, instead of summoning the baby, you summon this card, use this card to pop another baby to summon another baby, and then you continue your combo. And then the Zutomosaurus becomes the 4th level 2 that you revive. So you end up with Baron plus 5 level 2s. Which...
Baron into Sprite combo. Let's go.
So the only problem with that is that
shaman
you get synchro locked, but we can make it work. We can still ball out. So the next one is Finis Terrae, Tower of the Necro World. So it's a level 10 water zombie, which is already a weird combo. 1,000 attack, 2,800 defense. If you control a level 10 monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only special summon this named card once per turn this way. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target one face-up card on the field. That card cannot be destroyed by card effects this turn. You can only use this effect of this named card once per turn. So, I mean, it's a level 10 extender. I haven't really been able to come up with anything else. Like the typing and the attribute is kind of wonky. I don't know. Any ideas? It's kind of a weird card.
Level 10 special summon. Sent to the graveyard. Cannot be destroyed by card effects.
Yeah, it seems this is kind of what I mean by like it's pack filler. Almost all of them do like a thing that reads like you can do something with it, but it feels like it doesn't really. Like there's nothing specific.
Yeah.
Like obviously it's like, oh well, maybe like rank 10 trains, you can play this as a free 10. And it's like we've already got Derricrane, we got all this other stuff. Zombie doesn't really have use for a level 10. And I don't know how you're putting another 10 on the board. Like it seems a little weird. Like maybe
like I'm just seeing level 10 zombie with 2,800 defense and has an effect to make something cannot be destroyed by card effects. It's almost Eldritch if you squint.
It's a true. It makes something else Eldritch. Crazy. That's true. I mean, I guess because Eld is a 10 too, right? So maybe you go.
Yep.
If you play this in Eldritch, you can go. If you special Eldritch, you summon this, and then you can like make a rank 10 detach this, and then target like a back row. I don't know. It just seems a little sus. So this next card is actually not too bad, although it's a little wonky. It's so last set we did get another TCG exclusive Dragon Synchro in Golden Cloud Beast Malong, and that card is actually pretty good. It's seen play in a couple of lists. I've been messing with it.
That was the level modulating one?
Yeah, so it's the level 6. It can change itself to 5 or 7. It's a tuner, and if it gets sent to the graveyard, you can target a card your opponent controls and bounce it. So it's actually not bad. So this one, however, is a card, but it's kind of weird. So this is Kui Belt the Blade Dragon. Level 7 Dark Dragon Synchro, a 2500, 1900 attack. Materials is 1 tuner and 1 or more non-tuners. If this card is synchro summoned, you can target 1 card on the field to destroy it. If this card on the field is destroyed, you can target 1 face-up monster on the field. That monster cannot attack until the end of your opponent's turn, and you can only use each effect once per turn. I mean, it's kind of weird because on one, like Coral Dragon is at 6 that can discard and pop a card, but that costs a discard, but it gets you a draw back. This card is like, it's kind of free, but it also, this is like kind of it. I feel like the attack stop doesn't really do much.
And like the second effect just makes me think like you quick synchro into it and then you get Runic Slumber. You pop itself.
Yo, that's crazy. We will. Where? That's actually hilarious. I guess that's it for Kui Belt. I do like that they're experimenting with this though. Like I think something else that's cool about this is like with Crimson Dragon, if you control a 7 synchro, if you want to tag that out into Kui Belt to get like a pop, that's decent.
Oh yeah.
So you can swap out Crimson Dragon for that if you're not doing Calamity stuff. So there's something there for sure. The next card, I appreciate that this exists. It's not very good, but I am just happy that it's around. So this is Storage Pod. It's a level 6 Dark Machine Fusion. 2500 attack, 2500 defense. Its materials are Trifortresops or Stegocyber, plus a machine or dinosaur monster. Cannot be destroyed by battle when a monster is special summoned from the graveyard is on the field. If a monster or monsters is special summoned from the hand while this monster is on the field, except during the damage step, you can target 1 card you control and 1 card your opponent controls, destroy them. You can only use this effective Storage Pod once per turn. So, speaking as a dinosaur fan, I love Stegocyber. I actually played it in a very old Link Cross Dino list for Shooting Riser Dragon. It is very, very funny that these cards are materials. There's this weird sub theme of like machine dinosaurs with like a Dyna tank and all of like the weird vanillas. And this card does actually kind of work with the Transcendrake stuff in a way, where it's like a lot of them are destroy stuff and special stuff from the grave. If they're special from grave, there's like specific protections. We do lots of like destroying our own cards. So there's a universe where you set up a very funny resource loop with like the Transcendrake Synchro, the Transcendrake Fusion, and this card, where they just keep destroying each other every turn. But like how are you making this? I don't know. I don't know how you're making this in Dino. It just seems weird.
Yeah.
There's the fusion. I mean, Ground Xeno, I guess, can banish and fusion summon. Okay. So as always with the TCG exclusives, there's like 1 card that actually like is good, but is not crazy. So we have a normal trap card, Synchro Forceback. Target monsters on the field up to the number of Synchro monsters with different names you control. Return them to the hand. You can only activate 1 Synchro Forceback per turn. I mean, that seems like it's not bad. If you have a lot of Synchros, then you could bounce 2 or 3 cards.
Mm-hmm.
One thing.
Good number of synchron. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
One thing of note is that this is actually, you can search this with the Duelist Genesis now, because in this set they've printed it's the same as Generation Force, where you can add any card that has Synchro in the name. So so you could play this as probably as a searchable trap card. Maybe I I don't know. I don't know. You're following. Is there anything, just as like a general question, anything in Duelist Nexus you're really excited for? Are you? Is it acclimating to the TCG kind of weird in terms of learning what everything does?
I mean, I guess the one thing that I guess everyone's talking about is the Revolution Synchron and how it specifically has possible utility in the two decks that I currently own in paper, which are Fluffles and Crystal Beasts. So that's the one that I'm looking at, though. Like right now, I'm just looking at I was looking at the pre-sale prices like last week, and it's like, do I really want to pay $65 for like the pre-sale?
Yeah, especially US.
That's still, yeah. I'll definitely play it I'll definitely pull for it and play it in Master Duel when that comes around, but that'll be quite a bit in a while.
Yeah, the delay is kind of an unfortunate thing, and it's wonky with Rev Synchron because it's like pre-sale cards are almost always more expensive than they end up being like a week or two after release, but Rev Synchron is the card that's going to be carrying the set for sure. So it's like, if you're not going to big events, is it worth dropping $180 on a playset of a card that is good and boosts a lot of rogue and has some meta contention, but is also just kind of a guy? Like it just feels like it's not a lot of value. I will say, for those who don't know,
why use Rev Synchron when you can get Destrudo for $1?
Exactly. Yes. Like if we can go Dragon Shrine or Dragon Ravine, and so it's well, I mean, it's like Cruel Whale back when. So you may not have been in the TCG at this time, but with Cruel Whale, it was basically budget DPE with Edge of Scythe. That package was like 50 cents, and the DPE package was like $200. So like, why would I spend the money on DPE when I can activate Edge of Scythe and go into Cruel Whale? So for those who don't know, actually, we'll go over it super quick. The Revolution Synchron interaction in Crystal Beast is kind of nasty, because Golden Rule is an equip spell. So you can go Pegasus Rev Synchron into Power Tool Dragon to search Golden Rule. And you can...
and Golden Rule is a Pendulum Summon too.
It's a Pendulum Summon too, and it's Monster Reborn. Like, you can summon from hand, you can do all sorts of nonsense. And like, I mean, if you want to get like really stupid with it too, if you do like normal Pegasus, Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon, banish to add special Ruby, add the Rainbow Dragon, you can go like, you make Power Tool add Golden Rule, bring back the Rev Synchron to make an 8 tuner, and then use you could do Crystal Wing, or if you want to be funny with it, to get the Ruby Engrave. You can do the level 8 tuner guy to add you can add the Monadium counter trap, and then go Baron, and then afterwards activate your Golden Rule to revive the Ruby from grave.
Okay.
It's probably not good, but like even just Crystal Wing, like being able to go Rev Synchron to get Golden Rule if you're missing it. Like if you open Bond Rev Synchron, just goes insane. That's a 2 card. Okay, well, I think that'll probably do it for this episode of the Top Cut Yu-Gi-Oh podcast. Before I let you go, I am going to have to subject you to the names of our patrons. There are some pretty good ones, I gotta say. I'm just making sure I pull these up in order. They're not quite SEMO tier just yet. We're not at the level of MBT and Nim Nim's one night boxer brief stand of passion. But there are some good ones. So a huge thank you to Bring Red Reboot Back to 3. No. Kane Martin, Zyphorus, Big Stinky, Blue Eyes is Best, Copium, Broken Boy 13, Control Decks Do Not Exist Anymore, Ding Dongs, Hostess of the Yang Zing, Do You Remember When Heavy Storm Was Legal? Pepperidge Farm remembers. Earth Machine Best Deck. Has anyone actually read Toy Vendor? We have. Both of us have read Toy Vendor, actually. So it's good that you mention it. However, this person continues to just own me. So Vendor is spelled Vender, and Red is spelled Red. And it used to not be spelled Red. It used to be Red. So they are changing the spelling to screw with me specifically. We've got HZH Cyber. I used to play Rogue, but then my mom got a job. Is Canada Nickelback? John Leal, Mountain Man, Oatmeal Spaghetti, Owen Alvarado, Pistol RX, Silver Hope. There is one rule and only one. Always read MISC. Understanding and reading are two different things. Virtually Savior's World, Aaron Gardner, Alexander Chan, Asami, Ashless Chaps, Atsuyo, Simp of the Silver Castle, Blackwing Silverwind the Ascendant is the best Floodgate, Box Wine, Co-Link D's Nuts, Come On and Get Your Game On, Duty Booty, Dragon Maidenless Behavior, I'm About to Wreak a Glamour Tribute for Cost, D's Plant Nuts in Your Mouth, Neshi. Shoutouts to Neshi. You're the best.
Yep.
Crystal Conclave Unite. Old Man Red, Pin Code 143, Sakitama, Aratama, Nikitama, Cam, Obama, and Slaking It Up. Thank you all very much for your support of the podcast. And speaking of thanks, thank you very much, Elephant Number 5, for hopping onto the podcast, especially last minute. I super appreciate it. And it's super interesting to hear your perspective about Master Duel and getting into the game. And thank you for listening to me ramble about Zutomosaurus. Is there anywhere that the people can find you online? Anything you want to shout out?
I'm around on Discord on the Necrofusion Enthusiast and I guess a few other archetype Discords, but I don't have much of an online presence.
Deal.
So I'll shout out, I guess, my current brainchild of the Master Duel Fairy Fiend Festival, Fluffle Plunder. The synergy is discards.
Discards.
I will not elaborate.
The synergy is plunder, discard, toy vendor, or just send stuff to grave. I mean, we have.
You can hard make lists with patchwork.
That's true. Actually, that's crazy. That's kind of nasty. So one thing too, you can play Meister to special the plunder names from deck, because you can just summon any fiend. All right. Well, on that note, join the Necrofusion Enthusiasts, and have a good night, everybody. Catch you next time.